So this video is going to be completely unscripted. I really want to just speak from the heart. I've been doing this YouTube channel for almost 2 years now. It's something I've wanted to do for a long time. Actually, I've had videos on YouTube for years. My first medical coding video on YouTube was actually several years ago before I started this channel. I think it's still up somewhere, but when I bought this house on Valentine's Day of 2019, the intent was that I needed to get a second office because this was what I wanted to do. I wanted to teach medical coding online. I wanted to have this buku home office set up to do all kinds of visual content. So I got the house, we no sooner painted and patched things up than lockdown happened, and the fact that I was starting video content on YouTube right around then was pretty great timing. When I started out, I was working full-time as a professional fee auditor. So for those of you that don't know, I've done a lot of stuff in the medical coding industry, and I'm not talking just like coding. I'm talking like working as a senior coder, a supervisor of coding, interviewing and hiring, firing high-level coding personnel like educator auditors. I've worked as an auditor for myself in very large academic institutions. I've worked with basically probably almost every specialty under the sun. My biggest specialty is plastic surgery. I love plastic surgery. And I've done a ton of like internal medicine stuff. So big family medicine, internal medicine, OBGYN, geriatric medicine. So I have an extraordinary amount of wealth of knowledge to pour into making videos. So I have ideas and ideas and ideas for, I have basically a content planner where I put down video ideas, and it's got 250, 260 ideas on it right now. But in the past 2 years, I've built a huge library of content. So a lot of the good stuff that needs to be out there is out there. And I'm being asked to do kind of more complex videos. Someone recently asked about doing annual wellness visits. I've had a lot of annual wellness visit exposure, done audits on them, educated on them in various healthcare organizations over the past several years. But in order to do something that intense on an annual wellness visit, to plan it, to figure out all of the facets of the content, to and I know probably a lot of people want me to give them a solid yes or no in some of the gray areas, which I can't for liability purposes, aside from the fact that I'm not clinical and there isn't really a good black or white there. But in any case, to make a video, even if it would be 20 minutes to go over that, would literally take me weeks to put together. It's pretty intense because even when I'm doing things like case studies, there's a lot of stress involved because not only do I have to go through the case study, figure it out, code it, figure out the resources. It's almost like, imagine if you're coding a case and 1,000 people are watching over your shoulder, and they're going to be very quick to point out any little thing that you may or may not have done wrong, and that will be out there for your entire career. And I have a lot of personal things I want to do in 2022. I actually had, I don't want to say health scares in 2021, but like a perfect example, I had to apply for life insurance for myself because I don't have an employer now because I'm full-time on my business. I had to apply for life insurance. So they sent a nurse out to my house to take some vital information, to take some blood and run some blood tests. And my triglycerides, which are supposed to be under like 150, came back at 666. I called up my doctor and I'm like, oh my God, am I gonna die? And she asked me and she's like, well, when the insurance company came, did they have you fast? And I'm like, no. She's like, well, that's what insurance companies do. They intentionally do these things so that way they can either hike up your premiums or deny you insurance. And I'm like, well, that makes a lot more sense. Though they reran it and my cholesterol was not great, but it certainly wasn't that high. So I have a lot of me things I want to work on in 2022. I have a book that I've been working on, and there's just some things that I want to do that they don't have to do with medical coding. I've had people ask me if I plan on starting a personal vlog channel, and I'm not one that wants to just talk about me and what I do all the time. In fact, my boyfriend's a pretty private person, so there's a lot of aspects about my life that I don't really want to share. But when I post about things like my story, how I went from someone who dropped out of college to making 6 figures in my business, it speaks to a lot of people, and I want to be able to speak to those types of stories on a larger scale. So I have decided to start a second channel in 2022 to talk about a lot of broad business stuff, I guess, until maybe I see that there's something that is a particular concept that I can publish more videos on. And also, I want to talk about something other than medical coding, and I also want to challenge myself to see if I can replicate some of the success that I've had in this very narrow niche where, I can only grow to so much versus a larger niche that speaks to a broader audience, and see if I can replicate some of that success in a different niche. But in order to have time to produce additional content for that channel, I'm going to have to cancel this channel's uploads on Tuesday. So starting next week, you'll see that there's only one video uploaded on Thursdays. You won't see Tuesday uploads anymore. This will free me up, though, I think, to do some more short form content, some more TikToks, some more YouTube shorts. And honestly, there is so much amazing content that I've already built in my library that a lot of times when I get comments, I'm literally just referring people back to videos I already have. And I have a very fine-tuned process for how I create my YouTube content. It's a very well thought out thing, and I very much value quality over quantity when it comes to my content. I feel like sometimes making 2 videos was a little bit rushed to try and research the topics and put everything together and push it out in a way that would perform well for my channel. I know that there's others out there that are producing more content, but I would rather produce 1 great video a week than produce 5. And it's worked out really well for me. I mean, I've checked the data on certain websites where I can do comparisons and see that my channel is performing at a much higher level, even though I might not be producing as much content as other channels. Although, to be fair, most of the YouTubers that I follow are only publishing 1 video a week. Starting a second channel is really, really exciting, but there's also like some knots in my stomach. Occasionally I will have people reach out in the same niche as me that are like, hey, how do you do your YouTube videos? How do you do this? How do you do that? And I'm a little hesitant sometimes to give everyone the secret sauce of how exactly I do it. Not just because I don't want other people to have good content or I don't want any competition, but what I see in the industry, there are certain people who I think would do, I don't want to say deceptive, but they wouldn't come from the right place utilizing that knowledge of how I kind of do my work. And I am a pretty creative person, and I just want to put more creative stuff out there. And I feel like I'm almost, I don't want to lose myself, I guess, to medical coding. Like, I asked a bunch of my friends recently, like, if I was going to start a second channel, what do you think it would be about? And I received almost no responses, which kind of tells me that maybe people don't see that I have a personality beyond medical coding anymore. And also, medical coding is a really unusual niche, with all of the regulations. And I think I just want to kind of pull onto something where maybe I have a little bit more freedom. Plus, like I said, I just have a lot of other things that I need to work on for myself. So I don't want to overload my schedule. I've actually been turning down a lot of speaking engagements because I just have so many other things I need to accomplish. And I am not the best at multitasking tons of projects, and I really need to be able to focus on things like the students in my courses, focus on the creative activities that I want to do outside of medical coding, and just have some better structure. If you've watched my Instagram stories or saw me on LinkedIn, like, I actually recently hired a personal trainer because I was walking so much that it triggered plantar fasciitis, and I'm like, I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. I'm just gonna hire a professional. So yeah, the plan for 2022 is to still do 1 video on Thursdays and then probably more short form content as well. But yeah, it's been a lot to figure out, and there's still, I think, a lot to figure out because there's so many things I can do, but it's really like, what do I want to do? What do I want to focus on? Because I could do resumes and resume reviews. I've hired coders before. I've looked at resumes. I know, working with my recruiters and things, like what to do in a resume, but I don't know that that's something that would be the best use of my time, which is why I recommend things like Project Resume. Could I do consulting? Yes, but I prefer to do short-term projects. I don't really want to be locked down to 2-year-long contracts, but if I have like a plastic surgeon that reaches out and is like, hey, Victoria, can you do a small audit on my services, yeah, like I'd love to do that. I'd love to do short-term projects. In fact, if you have short-term projects, feel free to reach out to me. But I want to just be able to pick up too and just like go when I need to. You know, my kid's going through some stuff right now. She's 9 years old. She's on the autism spectrum. She's growing like a weed. She's like 5'2". She's not turning 10 till March. And you know, it's tough. She's going through a lot of things, and I want her to know that even if, you know, she's dealing with things at school, that her mom will always be there for her and we can go out and do cool stuff together. Which again is why I've had to scale back a lot on speaking engagements, because typically they happen in the evening or the weekends when I have to be spending time with my daughter. But yeah, I'm excited and I'm nervous and I'm still not sure, like, do I want to share the channel? Do I kind of want to see how it does on its own? I know a lot of people that have videos on YouTube that will post them everywhere, but I don't do that because that's actually not how YouTube works. I know some people out there have big plans. They're like, I want to scale, I want a team. And I'm like, I actually don't. Like, I want to stay fairly self-manageable because I love the flexibility. I love the freedom. I'm not sure yet if I want to post the other channel. I'm still kind of figuring a couple of things out structurally. I'd almost rather see if I can still grow it without kind of taking my existing audience and pushing them over there, although I don't know if there's going to be a ton of overlap in the first place. But I will see you guys next Thursday for the next video. Until then, keep on coding on.